welcome everybody to Saturday Stories. This program has been going since 2018. I'm Claire Pernice and I've been presenting this live at the Museum of Illustration, the Society of Illustrators. But now we're doing it virtually, which is so fantastic because we can work with illustrators and feature illustrators from all over. And we've got Dan Santat, who is awesome, who's joining us today. He lives in Pasadena in California. And so he's got a little earlier than us who are on the East Coast, or even if we've got people joining us from Europe, who it may be the afternoon already for them. So he's a little earlier, but he's ready to go. We've been chatting just before starting the program. So firstly, I'd love to thank the Bruce J.Heim Foundation, who are our generous sponsors for this program. This brings this program to you for free, which is amazing. And the Bruce J.Heim Foundation has been the sponsor for our original art show, which we have every year. It was running through November and December, and Dan had two pieces of his work, his illustrations from his latest books, Alphabet's Alphabet and Lift. So he was featured in our OA show. And the Bruce J.Heim Foundation believes in books being fundamentally important and inspiring and helping children reach their dreams and potential. And of course, picture books are a great part of younger children's lives. We get to see how they're made when we do the Saturday Stories. So we go behind the scenes, we see how our illustrators do their award-winning illustrations. And the Society of Illustrators has many other programs that we are running virtually. So you can go on our website. And Lindsay, who is behind the scenes at the Society today, is going to type in some email addresses and some website links for you. So do check out our website. You can see many events and programs that we have running. Some are for adults, some are for children. If you go to SI Kids, you'll see all the activities that illustrators have generously shared with us. And after school programs that I teach, if you want to do some after school programming. And also we have live galleries where you can register and buy tickets online and then go to the galleries at the Society of Illustrators, which is on East 63rd Street in Manhattan. So if you happen to be in Manhattan or live in the area, you can buy your tickets and then go in social distancing with your masks and have a look at our shows that are currently running. And so I would now like to introduce Dan Santat a little bit before he introduces himself in a lot more detail and shows us his behind the scenes. So Dan is very talented, as some fans who've already joined us well know. He's done over 40 books, maybe 50 already. He's illustrated picture books authored by other writers. He's authored and illustrated his own books. He won a Caldecott Award in 2015 for his book Beagle, The Unimaginary Friend. He's also designed and created a Disney series, The Replacements. Dan went to Art Center in Pasadena, California, which is a fantastic art school. And Dan lives still in Pasadena, although he was born in Brooklyn. And he lives there with his wife, his two children, and a menagerie of pets that he may tell us about and we may see running around in the background in his studio. So today we are going to be hearing about After the Fall, which is a fractured fairy tale, one of the genres that I quite enjoy myself. So it's the point of view of Humpty Dumpty. If you all know the rhyme, Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Well, we all know he had a great fall, but what happened after he fell off that wall? Well, Dan will read this book and you will find out exactly what happened to him. And it's a wonderful book. I really love the theme, how Humpty deals with his issues, with how he gets to be brave again. And we'll see how Dan does all those incredible illustrations, how he does the perspectives and figures out the layouts and the color palette and all of that, and the characters, wonderful characters. And so without further ado, over to Dan Santat. Yay, thank you.
Hi, good morning. How is everybody? I'm here in Los Angeles, California, where yesterday it was 90 degrees. That's how we celebrate our winters here in shorts and a nice light dress shirt. Before I begin, I always like to give a couple shout outs to some books that I've read, maybe some work of other people. Some books that I recommend. Gene Yang's Dragon Hoops, fantastic. You may know Gene from books like American Born Chinese. He is a National Book Award finalist and just a great friend. This is a fantastic one by Victoria Jameson and Omar Mohammed, When Stars Are Scattered. This was also a finalist for the National Book Award this last year. Fantastic read. Here's a great middle grade novel, Front Desk by Kelly Yang. Highly recommend that. Let's see, here's one that's not even out yet, but for those of you who are fans of the legendary Mr. Peter Cease, I got a copy of his new book called Nikki and Vera. This is a fantastic book. I highly recommend this one. Here's one just for those of you who are like interested in cooking and you like comic books. This is a graphic novel about how to make ramen, and the title of the book is called Let's Make Ramen, and it's a fantastic one. This has been around for a while. I haven't had the courage to try these recipes yet, but I like the drawings of ramen, so that's really good. And now I'm going to be talking about drawing, and like maybe afterwards, if you want to break off and do some of your own, I guess, at home studying about how to draw. I'm going to be talking about this book, How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. This is a book that I had ever since I was 8 years old. This is still my copy that I got from my school librarian in third grade at Camarillo Heights Elementary School. The pages have fallen out, but there's all kinds of great lessons in there if you want to draw pictures of Iron Man drinking Jamba Juice or something like that. And then there's these two great guys, Grizz and Norm. I have this book here called 100 Tuesday Tips. If you go to their website, grizzandnorm.com, they have all their drawing lessons online. This is all compiled in a book, but you know, they have all these amazing lessons that you can look at and you can study, just if you want to just take some online lessons about how to draw. And then lastly, I'm just gonna give a shout out to some of my own books. Oh, here's one. If you're curious about what I'm reading currently, I'm reading David Sedaris' book, Calypso. This is a fantastic read. Most of you probably know who David Sedaris is. Currently, I have this book out by Min Lei called Lift. This one is a little bit more graphic novel-y than you may be familiar with in my work. Or maybe not. I do a lot of graphic novel-y kind of books. Lift. And I have this book coming out in March called A New Day by New York Times bestselling author Brad Meltzer. This is a Barnes & Noble exclusive. So if you open it up, it comes with this. It comes with this cool poster right there. So you can hang on your wall to cover, I don't know, maybe a hole or something. Anyway, that's what I've got going on. Before I begin, let's talk about some materials that you might want to have handy around you. I have a whole bag of markers and pens and stuff. I'm going to be working digitally on a Cintiq drawing tablet, but that does not mean that you cannot follow with copious amounts of paper and pens and markers. You know, you might want to have an eraser. You might want to have a highlighter, and I'll show you a little later. If you don't have a highlighter, that's fine. It's perfectly fine if you have maybe an orange crayon or an orange marker of some sort, or just something lighter than black. Because I'm going to show you guys maybe like how to do layouts and things like that. So before we begin, I'm supposed to read you one of my books, and you know, there's many books that I can share with you, but part of the deal was that I read after the fall. So let us begin. I'm going to share my screen here. This nice little old BBC television monitor here. I'm going to read to you After the Fall. For those of you who are curious about After the Fall, it was inspired by, it's a love letter to my wife. And, you know, most people ask me, well, what's the favorite book that I ever made? And I think a lot of people assume it's Beagle because it won the Caldecott Medal. But this one is the closest to my heart. And this is what happens to Humpty Dumpty after he falls from the wall. So let's begin. Here are the end papers. You can see here's Humpty Dumpty sitting on the wall. After the Fall, How Humpty Dumpty Got Back Up Again, a story by Dan Santat for my lovely wife, Leah. My name is Humpty Dumpty. This was my favorite spot, high up on the wall. I know it's an odd place for an egg to be, but I love being close to the birds. Then one day, I fell. I'm sort of famous for that part. Folks called it the Great Fall, which sounds a little grand. It was just an accident, but it changed my life. Fortunately, all the king's men managed to put me back together. Well, most of me. There were some parts that couldn't be healed with bandages and glue. Since that day, I became afraid of heights. I was so scared that it kept me from enjoying some of my favorite things. Every day I walked past that wall and I would think about climbing that ladder. I really missed the birds, the sky, and sitting high above the city, but I could never do it because I knew that accidents can happen. I eventually settled on watching the birds from the ground. It wasn't the same, but it was better than nothing. Then one day, an idea flew by. Making planes was harder than I thought. It was easy to get cuts and scratches, but day after day, I kept trying and trying until I got it just right. My plane was perfect and it flew like nothing could stop it. I hadn't felt that happy in a long time. It wasn't the same as being up in the sky with the birds, but it was close enough. Unfortunately, accidents happen. They always do. I almost walked away again, but then I thought about all the time I spent working on my plane and all the other things I missed. I decided I was finally going to climb that wall. But the higher I got, the more nervous I felt. I didn't want to admit it. I was terrified. I didn't look up. I didn't look down. I just kept climbing, one step at a time, until I was no longer afraid. Maybe now you won't just think of me as that egg who was famous for falling. Crack, crack, crack. Hopefully you remember me as the egg who climbed back up. Crack, crack, crack. And learned how to fly. The end. And that is after the fall. Now Humpty Dumpty got back up again. So as I said, my name is Dan Santat. I am from the lovely land of Los Angeles, California. For those of you who are not bilingual, Los Angeles actually translates to the land of unemployed actors. That's what Los Angeles means. Here's a picture of me when I was in first grade. Yes, I did used to have a full head of hair that my mom used to cut. So that's the best childhood picture I have of myself. But when I was a kid, a lot of my art was self-taught. I taught myself how to draw. Here are pictures of Garfield and Odie. I would get the newspaper every day and I would pick it up and I'd read the Sunday comics and because I liked the Sunday comics, they came in color. And I would try to copy the pictures as best as I could. And for most of us who are artists professionally, I think that's how a lot of us practice. Like they just copied pictures of things that they liked. And as time goes on, you just get better. You just get better muscle control. You know how to hold the pencil. You have techniques and things like that. And a lot of it is like repetition. So it's like riding a bicycle. So when you were born, you didn't know how to ride a bicycle, but you learned how to balance on a bike on training wheels, and then eventually you knew how to pedal. And then before you know it, you were riding a bike. Same thing with drawing. Really, it's just how much time you put into it. And I think really what happened was that it was my favorite thing to do, and I just never stopped. And I would draw for hours every day. I was an only child, so a lot of the time I was at home. I would watch cartoons, and then I'd want to draw my own pictures and tell my own stories. And it wasn't until maybe the last 8 or 10 years that I realized that my real passion is actually storytelling, but I use art as a medium to do it. So I'm going to go through some of my childhood art just so you can get an idea of what I was like. This Garfield and Odie I drew when I was in first grade. you know, and I moved on to like Dungeons and Dragons. I was a real Dungeons and Dragons nerd. And here's a picture of a knight fighting a dragon. I think I also did this in first grade. You can see my little wonky castle there in the background, which, you know, isn't as good as the dragon and the knight, which is why I'm not Dan Santat architect, for those of you. Here's a stegosaurus that I did in charcoal. I don't remember what grade I was in, but you know, I was just learning how to draw dinosaurs. That was one of my favorite things. You can see his little atrophied leg here. And he's on, look how thin he is. I think he was on the paleo diet. Here's a Pegasus. You know, so let's break this down. For all of you artists out there, there are three things that artists are really fearful of drawing. One are human hands. That's just really hard.
True.
Two are horses. Horses are really hard. And three are cars. Like, those are the things that I think most illustrators cringe over. So if you were to ask me to draw a horse with human hands driving a car, I promise you it would be the ugliest drawing you would ever see in the world. But that does not mean that I don't continue to practice drawing hands. When I look at my old drawings, my hands were very puffy, like someone had stung the person's, you know, like bees stung his hand like 1,000 times. They were really puffy. And now I'm getting better at drawing hands. My horses are still atrocious, but I've gotten a little bit better at drawing cars. Here's some surly looking rabbits. I think they're very surly because they won second place at the local county fair. They're weird ears. But that all comes with practice. I look at these fondly. My mom, she kept them all. They're like in a drawer somewhere. They're like mounted with, you know, it's not the acid-free glue. So like all the paper, like if I touch it or if I breathe on it, it'll just all fall apart. This is the very first drawing I ever sold to somebody. I know I have some old school friends online. So for those of you who are acquiring, this is from an old friend. Her name is Joy Hirashi, and she came up to me one day and she said, my dad really likes dragons, and I was wondering if you could draw him a dragon for his birthday because he just loves dragon stuff. And this was like the first drawing I ever sold. I think I was in seventh grade. I was in eighth grade. I was in eighth grade, sold it for $20. And she just recently sent me this photo. She's recently sent it to me and said, I went to my dad's house, look what I found, and had your name on it. And, you know, and I said, oh my gosh. And so, you know, I'm actually working on a graphic novel memoir. And this is going to be part of one of the stories in the memoir. So yeah, for the most part, my parents, you know, they wanted me to grow up and be a doctor. So, you know, like art lessons weren't a thing that I was actively going out and taking. Like a lot of the art lessons that I did were self-taught. But this was the first book that I ever got. I had this lovely school librarian who said, you know, maybe you can teach yourself how to draw, you know? So here's a book that was in the library, How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. It's still in stores. It's fantastic. For those of you who say, well, I can't even draw a stick figure, well, guess what? You're in luck, because this book starts with stick figures, and then you learn how to draw muscles and, you know, facial expressions, and then you put costumes on them. And before you know it, you know, you're drawing Iron Man and Thor going mini golfing and things like that. And I still kept practicing drawings that I liked. I was a huge fan of Todd McFarlane back in the day. This is a picture that I drew. I think I was like in ninth grade. And I remember just sitting in front of that cover, and I would try to copy it as best as I could without tracing. And I remember this one took me about 3 hours, but that's really how you learn. You just kind of take, you know, little baby steps of things that you can handle, and then you try something a little bit harder and a little bit harder after that. And before you know it, you know, you're drawing better than you thought you ever could. Here's some of my early work. This was in my first portfolio that I had in 2001. This is done in acrylic and pen and ink. And as you can see, like if you're familiar with my work doesn't look like this. It's evolved a lot in the last, oh gosh, what I've been in this business for about 20 years now. So this is some early work that I had a long time ago. This is one of my first published pieces that I got into Communication Arts, the Communication Arts Annual. For those of you online who are curious about how I got into children's books, I actually started in an organization known as the SCBWI. For those of you who are familiar, it's the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. So if you're interested in getting into children's book publishing, I recommend scbwi.org. I'll write that down later for you guys so you can make note of that. Membership is about, I think it's like $65, and there's chapters all across the country that you can get lessons from. Like you can get instructional guides on how to put together a presentation, an art portfolio, make a dummy book, get inquiries from agents, editors, art directors, and the like. Actually, so the very first critique that I ever got was from Kadir Nelson, who, I mean, I think we all know who Kadir Nelson is, but he looked at this robot illustration and, he just said, you should expand your work more like this. And, I think 6 months later, I ended up with a book deal. But my work's different, it changes constantly. This is a piece that I did years ago for the Playboy Jazz Festival. You can see how different it is from that robot piece. I'm always experimenting, always going in different directions. This is the piece that I'm currently working on for a book for Chronicle Books. This is a choose your own adventure, Little Red Riding Hood story, written by Laurel Snyder. So let's get busy. Let's get drawing. So I have my white little canvas here. Let us start with the basics. Oh my gosh, let me calibrate my monitor first.
I'm just going to jump in and say to the participants, if you have any questions, you can now ask some questions in the chat. And then as Dan is drawing away, I will here and there, when there's a moment to sort of ask him a question, I will do so. So feel free to ask him any questions you have on your mind. And I just wanted to say to Dan, you are being joined from people all over the world. We have Germany, UK, Singapore, Poland. We have all over the states, Minneapolis, Florida, Georgia, Virginia, New Jersey, New York, of course, California. And we have teachers and we have friends of yours who are saying hi. I don't know if you're familiar with Tammy Martinez-Taggart, but she says she's here with her kids.
Martinez.
I have students of mine, Toma, Dana, and Valentina, who are joining us again. So greetings, everybody, welcome. And now let's watch how Dan draws.
Fantastic. Can you see this monitor? Because I just calibrated it and it might be a little off. Can you see me drawing that circle?
No, it looks good. Yeah.
Okay, good. Awesome. Fine. All right. So we're going to get down, we're going to get really primal. We're going to get really basic here. And then I'm going to slowly work my way up because I know we have a lot of wonderful kids out there that want to draw. And I'm just this workshop really is it's just the basics. And I promise you, you're going to, by the end of this, you're going to be drawing some amazing things, and hopefully you'll practice, and then eventually you'll be able to draw your parents for an upcoming birthday card or something. So I'm going to start with basic shapes. You can draw anything in the universe using 3 basic shapes. The first basic shape here is the circle. Okay. So now, a lot of the ways to draw really isn't about how you draw something, but it's the way you see things. So what I mean by that is, if I draw a circle, I can use that as a symbol for many different things. And just by me telling you what it is, I'm going to turn this circle into a lot of amazing objects. So for example, I have drawn you a circle, but I have just drawn you a ball. You get what I'm saying? Like I'm telling you what to see. So I have just drawn you a ball. I have just drawn you a slice of bologna. Okay, now do you see a slice of bologna? This is how we see things, and I think what you need to understand is a lot of drawing is how you see things, and a lot of the training that you do as an artist is how to take a look at complex things and then break them down so that it's applicable to being drawn. You know, you can take very complicated things, break them down to basic shapes, and then before you know it, you're drawing really complicated things. So here I have a ball, I have a slice of bologna. If I were so bold, I could draw another circle on top of that and a line. And look at that, I just drew myself the Death Star from Star Wars, okay? If I drew another circle here and I put some lines there, and I have TIE fighters flying out of it. See, that is really like how to draw basic things, like just with a circle. Now, if I were to take the second major shape, the second major shape is a triangle. Okay, you can do a lot of things with a triangle. Okay. Now it's early. I haven't had breakfast yet. I've just drawn you a slice of cheese pizza. Yum yum. Okay. Now, if I took that triangle and I took that slice of cheese pizza and I added circles to it, look at that. Now I've just made you pepperoni pizza. Or maybe if we're talking about how we see things, maybe I just drew you a fancy hat with spots on it. And then I'm going to put a little head underneath that hat. I'm gonna put a couple eyes on there and a nose and a mouth. And now I've just drawn you a beardless wizard. I didn't get accepted into Harvard. I went to Hogwarts instead.
I'd like to go to Hogwarts, yeah.
My parents would be very upset if I went to wizard school. They'd be like, that's not Yale. The third major shape is a square. The wonderful square. Okay. Now, let's use our way of seeing. I have just drawn you a box. I have just drawn you a piece of paper. I have just drawn you the state of Colorado. Yay! Oh my gosh, Colorado, if there's anybody from
Colorado, yeah, we do.
Look at that, I just drew you the state of Colorado. Isn't that amazing? Yay! Not really. But okay, now let's blow your minds here. Now, if I took this, if I stuck to the food theme, look at this. I just drew you a slice of American cheese. Oh, yum. Now, if I took circles, if I added circles to this, I have now just drawn you Swiss cheese. Yum, 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 Swiss cheese. Okay. Now, I started with a box. I added circles, and I made you some Swiss cheese. But now I'm going to take this Swiss cheese and I'm going to add 2 eyes and some eyelashes. And I'm going to draw with the letter U. I'm going to make a nose. I'm going to make a mouth and 2 square teeth.
Everyone guess who this is?
And you just made a sliced cheese with a face on it. No, it's SpongeBob SquarePants, or my own version of SpongeBob SquarePants. Like
we had
kids,
some participants guessing that. Yes, well done, Leah.
Yeah, like I knew it was SpongeBob. So yeah, so they're the 3 basic shapes. You have your circles, you have your square, you have your triangle. Like, let's give an example of let's draw a house. Okay, so we can take the square for the body of the house. Okay. Okay, we're gonna put a little triangle roof on there. I'm making a yurt. And then, they have like rectangle windows and rectangle doors. Okay, just really basic. We'll get more advanced. A doorknob so you can get inside there. See, everyone knows how to draw. So this is the thing. The thing about drawing is there's a symbology for objects. Basically, things that identify objects so you know what they are. So if I were to say if I'm going to draw a car, You know, a car, you identify a car with headlights and four tires and maybe some windows. So there's lots of ways to draw a car. We'll do that a little bit later. So back to our house, like we already can tell that this is a house, you know, and it really comes down to the details. You can add more details and just make that a more detailed house. I'm gonna add a chimney here, just with a rectangle, okay. And what I mean by details is, oh, maybe I wanna add, maybe I wanna let you know that it's a brick chimney. So now I'm going to add rectangles in there and make that a brick chimney, see? So that looks like brick just by communicating with rectangles, okay? And now let's give this a nice like shingled roof. And again, that's just more rectangles. So we're just gonna add some shingles on that roof. And really, you know, like drawing is just adding more details and deciding how you want to.
Dan, if
yes.
I could ask a question that's relevant to what you're doing right now. So
okay.
Rachel is asking, are you using a mouse to draw? You seem to have so much control.
Can you see, I have what's known as a Wacom tablet, Cintiq tablet. Basically, I've got this digital pen right here. And what you don't see right now is I'm drawing on this surface. It's a monitor. It's like a 24-inch monitor that's kind of like a television screen. And I'm just drawing. I'm drawing on the surface. Let me see if I can look up a Cintiq.
That makes it much more how you would draw in real life. It's more lifelike, or more natural. You know, not using a mouse. You're writing onto the screen, yeah.
So here, let me show you. This is what a Cintiq looks like. Imagine this device sitting on my desk weighing about 20 pounds.
Wow, yeah.
And I'll tell you, sometimes I plug the Xbox into it. I play some Xbox. I know you're not supposed to do that. But that's what I'm working on, basically. So yeah, so there we are drawing with basic shapes. Now I'm going to move on to another lesson where we will break down basics of drawing certain things just so you can see what I'm talking about. So like, for example, let's draw a pig. Okay, so I'm gonna talk you through it. So the shape of a pig's head is a circle, right? So I'm gonna draw the pig's head. Okay. Now, the pig has 2 eyes, so those are also circles. And the pig has 2 pupils, so those are also circles. And the pig has a nose, which is also a circle. Look at that. See how easy that is? So far, we've drawn a pig with just circles. Pig's nostrils are also circles. Surprise, surprise. You know what? I'm gonna give him like nice rosy cheeks, which are also circles. We have drawn so much of this pig. It already looks like a pig. It looks like a pig without ears.
Yes.
Give this pig some ears. His ears are triangles, okay? Look at that. I'm gonna add a little bit of some folds inside those ears. We've drawn a pig. I'm gonna make him a happy pig. I'm making him a happy pig right here. So yay, with the weird oval, and I'm gonna give him some teeth. Okay, and you just drawing yourself a happy pig. Now let's blow your minds. Let's draw me. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Let's draw me. Take a good look at me. Okay. Mr. Santat's head is a giant oval. Oh. I'd like to think I look like Henry Golding, but you know, that just isn't in the cards. Mr. Santat, his 2 eyes, they're also circles. And he has two pupils. My I have my mother's eyes. This, right now they look terrified, so that's okay. Now let's get back to our basic shapes. The nose is a triangle. We're just going to just use a basic, my father's nose. We're gonna give myself some ears. So we're just gonna use like some half circles, like so. Okay. And then we've got some, I don't have any hair, so but I do have some really luscious eyebrows.
Yeah, very cool eyebrows.
Gonna have some eyebrows here, just these big, these big black, and just there, the very stern looking Mr. Santat. Sadly enough, that is pretty accurate.
Pretty accurate.
So what I look like. I mean, you wouldn't look at that and be like, I think that's Oliver Jeffers. He's so dreamy. No, that's.
I do have a question.
Not gonna be any mistakes. There's not going to be any confusion to be had. I'd be like, I thought Oliver Jeffers had an Irish accent. You would be correct. So yeah, you guys didn't think that you were going to be drawing an author like Mr. Santat. So now let's take it up a notch, okay? Let's break down things. Let's take this vase, for instance, that I stole from a stock photo site. Don't get me in trouble. Now, here's a case where we take something a little bit more complicated and we're gonna break it down to its basic elements. So what I mean is you're gonna take something pretty complex and then I just want you to take little parts at a time, okay? Now, this might be a case where you might want to, no, I won't get there yet. Let's break this down, okay? So we're going to take this vase, and I think what a lot of you would probably do is draw the outside of this thing and trace it out. What I want you to do is I want you to look at this thing as an object, you know? So if I take this vase, I'm going to start with just this portion first, and then I'm going to study this portion, and then this portion, and this portion. I'm looking at parts, okay? So let's start with the first part here, okay? And then we're going to handle that, and then that, and then part 4, part 5, and then we're going to do the little details, which would be part 6 and 7 and 8 and so forth. So let's start with part 1, okay? We're going to break it down nice and easy. So we're going to take the top part of this vase, okay? And it's just that simple shape there, right? Okay, so now I'm going to take part 2. I'm going to draw this part of the vase. See, it's much easier to approach when you just look at it from simpler means, okay? Now the third part, we're going to take the big body of the vase. Now don't mind my proportions. My proportions are way off because I'm drawing in front of a live audience and I'm terrified, okay?
We're enjoying it.
Oh, good, you're enjoying watching me suffer.
I do have a question. I'll just jump in and ask this question from Sharon, who asked this a little while ago. She was wondering, when did you start drawing digitally?
When did I start drawing digitally? So I didn't start drawing digitally until I got into art school, and that was, gosh, that was like when those early IMAX came out that were like lime green and things like that. And the way I would do it was I would originally draw on pencil and paper, and then I would scan it in, and then I would color on top of it. I recently, here, let me see if I can find it for you. I just recently did, actually it's in my presentation later, but for those of you who follow me on Instagram and social media, I just did an illustration of the Griffith Observatory.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And I actually have that file open. I'll break it down. I'll show you how I did that entire illustration.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Thanks.
Okay. So back to what we have right now is the Stanley Cup for you hockey fans. And now we're going to work on this little part, the little base of our vase. So this part here, I'm gonna simplify it. I'm gonna say it's a cylinder. It's just a little cylinder, and then it's got this little round notch. Okay, so it's got that going for it. Now I'm not gonna erase anything because I want you guys to see how I'm doing things, and also I want you to know that it's okay to make mistakes. And now this last part, it's this platter to stand. Okay. And there you go. See, now we've got the shape of our little vase. Oh yeah, we've got to do our little handle here, and that is, oh, hold on. See, so now we've got the shape of our vase, which is pretty good. Okay. Now notice that I haven't done all the little details on there, but what we've got here, it's not looking too complicated. You know, we've got some pretty patterns here. Like I said, we've got some triangles, we've got some circles, we've got these little pretty, you know, little accordion. I guess I don't know what kind of vase this is. But then we Babylonian, I don't know. But yeah, you just, so like here, we just take the details here on the neck, and I just put those two lines there. Here, you know, I'm just going to break those down into and then it's got, let's see what the details here are. This looks like I'm signing a contract with my weird signature. My father's a doctor, so this looks like his handwriting. He's prescribing antidepressant meds for everybody during this wonderful period.
Oh yeah, I shouldn't laugh at that.
So continuing on, see, we've got this pretty little ribbon here. And then we've got the bottom. And then we've got that ribbon here. Okay. Sorry if I'm rushing through. It's just I've got a lot to share.
No, this is fun to do. I'm actually drawing along as well, just to sort of pace how it's going for the participants. It's going perfectly well, perfectly paced.
So now let's take this center part. This part is really nice design here. I'm just going to, so if we break this down, look, it's just a circle. It's a nice flourish circle. I'm going to do that. And then it's got these two, like a mantle of some sort. I'm just doing these two lines and a dot. See, I don't know if you can see what I see, but you know, this is how I'm breaking it down. I see this little line here. I'm going to do that little line there. So I'm approaching this. I'm attacking this from one little detail at a time, but I'm also breaking it up into little portions. This is how you attach. This is how you basically draw anything in the universe. You know, I also find that it's easy to tackle the easy things first and then work into the more complicated things. So we've got, like, you know, these. I mean, even if my proportions are way off, there's no question that if someone looks at this, they know that it's this picture here. All right, now we've got these really cool little teardrop shapes. So I'm going to.
A couple of other questions have popped in, Dan. Steph would like to know, what job did you do after graduating? I believe that's her question.
I had various jobs. So my very first job out of art school, I worked in the video game industry. I worked at Activision. For those of you out there who are video gamers, I worked on the very first Call of Duty Black Ops game. I did that. I worked on the Spider-Man video games with the Tobey Maguire ones. I did 3 of those. NHL hockey was a big one that I did for Sega. And then afterwards, well, actually, while I was working at the video game company, I was doing editorial illustration for magazines. So I did magazines like Entertainment Weekly and Time and Esquire. I was doing editorial illustrations. I was doing advertising illustrations. I did the 2006 Macy's Day Parade poster. Also, while I was at the video game company, I pitched my first cartoon show, which was The Replacements, that came out in 2007. Excellent. And it ran for 3 seasons. Yeah. And I was also, I got published in 2004. So this is how it happened. I went to my first SCBWI conference. I showed my portfolio. Mr. Arthur Levine, who is the editor of Harry Potter, saw me at the conference, liked my stuff, gave me a 2-book deal on the spot. I mean, I'd like to tell you that I had some tragic story of rejection and, malice, but it really just turned out that the editor of Harry Potter saw me at a conference and said, "Here's a medium-sized bag of money." And so that's how I got into this.
Right, this is your destiny. We are all so thrilled that you are an author illustrator.
Right. And when I went to art school, I originally thought I wanted to be an animator until I took a 3D animation class with Maya, and it was a nightmare. It was like, it took me 14 weeks just to make a minute of film, and I remember thinking to myself, there's got to be a better way. There has to be a better way to tell stories. And I took a children's book writing and illustrating course, which was taught by the lovely Miss Deborah Norse Lattimore.
Oh yes, yes.
And Deborah actually, so the program actually was started by David Shannon, who was one of my favorite.
Love him too. Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite illustrators at the time. Now it's funny because while I was in art school, I wanted to have David's feedback on my work before I went out and submitted work to publishers. So he invited me over to his place, and I remember he had his Caldecott honor certificate on the wall, and I remember looking at it thinking, wow, this is the closest I'm ever going to get to seeing one of these things. And so I showed my portfolio to him, and the first thing that came out of his mouth was, "You need to start over again." And I remember my heart just breaking.
Oh my God.
And he looked at it and he said, "Look, you're trying to draw like me, which I'm really flattered by, but this isn't a big business. Like, if people want to hire me, I'm here. So you need to kind of figure out how you want to draw things," which will bring me right into our next lesson about finding your own voice.
Yes, so important, your own style. So don't be afraid of drawing your way. You can draw what Dan is showing you, but do your own way. That's how you discover your own style as well. So you can see
I'm finishing up here. I'm just, because it's a very basic black and white, black and eggshell. I don't know what color you want to say that.
Terracotta, maybe?
Terracotta, there you go. I need more coffee. I apologize.
Might be Etruscan. I can't remember. It's some sort of Greek.
Right. See, so now you just look. My proportions are off, but this thing looks pretty good. I think. It
looks great. That was fun to draw, everybody, right?
Right. So we got a base.
There is somebody who earlier on, very much earlier on when the program started, put in a request to learn how to draw Beagle, favorite character of hers.
Oh gosh. So this is great. All right, folks. I'm going to give you a really basic lesson on Beagle.
There you go, Tiffany.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna take the letter U, and we're gonna draw the letter U upside down. Okay. Oh my God, you're almost done. 2 eyes. Okay, and a letter U for a smile.
Personality immediately now.
And then he's just missing a crown. He's just missing his crown, little 3-spike crown on the top. and the crown is made out of paper. So we have 2 rectangles here.
Did you get inspired by drawing something on your finger first?
So the idea for Beagle was he was supposed to be creativity, and originally what happened was that he was a white piece of paper. I drew him as a white piece of paper, but I thought that gave away the ending too quickly because he basically is the definition of creativity. And so by making him a piece of paper, when he finally met Alice at the end of the story, I think he was going to give it away. So I just turned him into like this white blob. It was just kind of like this formless shape of inspiration. If anybody really carefully goes through Beagle, you will notice that he is the only thing that's purely 100% white on the page. Everything else is some color of some sort. He's the only thing. That way, when you open the book, he will be the first thing that you see. So that's Beagle, which brings me to my next lesson, which is we all know how to draw our letters of the alphabet. So I'm going to show you guys all how to draw things just by visualizing letters of the alphabet. So I could start with, let's start with the letter, okay, here we go. Let's start with the letter W, okay? We've got the letter W, and now I'm going to put a little line over that W. I'm gonna draw, so now what have I drawn? I've drawn us a vampire staring at himself in a mirror. Look at that. Fantastic. With vampires, they can't see their own reflection, for those of you who are not familiar with it. But now let's finish the rest of this vampire off, okay? Let's give him a head. So the head is the letter O, right? So let's draw the letter O here. Okay, now we've got a vampire with very big teeth. I'm going to draw the letter, let's draw the letter D for his eyes. We're gonna make him angry or annoyed. Okay, we got 2 letter D's here. And then his eyes are round eyeballs like so. Good morning, hon. How are you? You come get your computer. That's fine. Ladies and gentlemen all over the world, from Poland, from Singapore, my lovely wife, Hello.
Hi. And some dogs in the background, Dan.
Dogs in the background, everyone. Just, yeah. Because he's a vampire, because vampires turn into bats, I'm gonna give him a little bat nose. We're going to give him a little heart-shaped nose. We all know how to draw hearts there, see? It's got a little heart nose. 2 nostrils, like so. Okay. Now he's gonna be an angry vampire, so I'm gonna use the letter B. I'm gonna use the letter B. A little unibrow kind of thing. Vampires have ears, they have pointy ears. I'm gonna use the letter V to give him pointy ears. So now we've got like this Nosferatu.
Yeah, this is exactly.
Kind of vampire. Vampires, they have the hair, they have the cowlick. I'm gonna give him, we're not doing the Twilight vampire where they look like they belong on the cover of Esquire. We're going to do our traditional vampire. I'm gonna use the letter M here. See, he's got the cowlick.
The widow's peak, yeah.
The widow's peak. We're gonna color that in. See, now we've got ourselves a vampire. I'm gonna put a little cape here.
Very satisfying to draw this vampire.
Right? Just looking at letters of the alphabet.
Yeah. Awesome.
So yeah, we've got this vampire, as you see here. Let's try another one. Let's draw a werewolf. Okay, or a dog. It could be a dog. I'm going to use the letter M. I'm gonna use the letter M.
So everybody, don't forget to send in your drawings to us. Us at the Society of Illustrators would love to see them, and we'll post some things on our Instagram and send them to Dan too, or we'll send them on to Dan. So there are ways to share your illustrations.
I believe the mail's coming, so my dogs are going to lose their minds for a minute. Oh gosh, they just let one in, one out. Let's forget it. Let's just continue drawing. All right, so I've got the letter M here for the head of the wolf. I'm gonna draw another letter M off to the side, a much longer letter M, because he has a long snout. Okay, I'm gonna give him a neck. I'm gonna extend that, make a neck. Now, we're gonna draw the wolf's ears. I'm gonna put little triangles in there. Now we've got wolf ears. Okay. Now, I'm gonna make an angry wolf. So I'm gonna try something a little bit different. I'm gonna use the lowercase b. Oh no, I'm gonna use the letter B. See, so he's got the letter B. He's really perturbed. And I'm gonna give him 2 eyes like so. Wolf has a nose. I'm gonna give him a circle nose.
It's so cool, Dan.
Okay. Teeth, we're gonna do triangles or the letter B. He's got wolf teeth.
You do a lot of teaching anyway, Dan, don't you? You do a lot of presentations and workshops all the time.
I do.
Asking.
You know, it was like, so before this whole wonderful global pandemic happened, I was going to go to Japan for 3 weeks, and I was going to lecture at the universities over there for 3 weeks.
Oh, that would have been nice, right?
That would have been amazing. So hopefully that will happen again. I don't know. And then I'm just drawing little lines here for fur. Mm-hmm. And look at that. You drew yourself a wolf with the letter M. Would anybody? So let's talk about style for a little bit, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, when I talk about style, I'm talking about expressing yourself in ways that are uniquely your own. So, for example, I could take a picture of a train, and I could copy a picture of that train, but what I'm really doing is I'm drawing the picture of that train. That's what a train really looks like. But in your mind, you have an idea of what a train should look like, right? And so I always encourage people to draw things out of their imagination first, to visualize what they think that thing should look like. And then you might want to look at a reference later to figure out how close you are to identifying how accurate you are. But in the end, you have your own style. And so style has always been this tricky thing that a lot of artists struggle with. And the best way to say it is that it's a very Zen thing where you realize that the way you draw is your style, and you just have to accept that as a fact. So let's do something here. You guys saw that picture of Garfield that I drew years ago by looking at a photo, but let's just for fun, let's draw Garfield from memory. Let's see what my Garfield would look like if I were to draw Garfield from memory. Now this is going to be interesting. So if I remember correctly, Garfield had two big giant eyes, right? Jim Davis loved drawing these like bubbly eyes. And you'll find that if you imitate artists and then you copy the way they draw, that you basically adopt their style. And so for years I was drawing bubbly eyed people, which was really disturbing. So Garfield always looks sleepy eyed. So I'm just gonna, see, those are very Jim Davis-y eyes, okay? Garfield's head was an oval, yes. Good Lord. Okay. Garfield had a little tiny nose, a little circle for a nose. And then he had like a mouth. I don't remember. I don't remember if it came all the way down like this. Okay, so he also had these ears, these round ears, like the letter O. Now, I'm sure kids at home are just like, that's not Garfield. What's drunk Garfield?
The eyes are great, Garfield.
Okay, so here's my weird chipmunky looking Garfield.
It's your smile.
Did Garfield have like little whisker dots? I don't remember. I do remember he has like these lines for his stripes like that. Okay, so he had like these. And then he had them on the side of his head.
Oh yes, he's looking more and more like Garfield, isn't he?
He's looking a little bit more like Garfield's cousin.
Garfield's cousin.
Kevin. Okay, so it was yeah, it's like that. That's kind of Garfield, and then it's weird if you look at the very first Garfield book, like the guy was just like this huge, it was like a horrible huge blob, and then Garfield got thinner and thinner, but Jim Davis kept saying like, look how fat he is, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. But I'm gonna draw. Oh gosh, like he had like this weird. And then he would do like these bubbly arm things. He would do these like these. I don't know. He'd do like these weird. Oh God, what is he like doing the Macarena? I don't know. I don't know. And then he had like these really skinny legs. But then he had like these crazy, like thin, huge feet.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this Garfield. And then he had this big, long tail, which also had the spikes at the end. Spikes. And I'm trying to remember if the tail was, I don't remember. And I don't remember if he had like a belly.
The tail is right. It's perfectly correct.
Oh my gosh, look at this Garfield. So it's not Garfield as I remember, but you look at him, you say like, I think that's Garfield. Let's see how close. I'm not even close, but that's okay. Yeah, I didn't make him see. So I didn't make him fat enough. I didn't make him fat enough. So if I were to, but anyway, that's my Garfield.
Yes, your Garfield.
My Garfield. Oh, the mouth. Oh, I see. So, see. So you go back and you fix it. So now Garfield's looking a little bit less horrible. Move the hand there, and then. So I think
pretty close though, from your memory.
that, and he didn't have. This is 80. It was like a 60% Garfield.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so let's go. So that's basically that style. That's how you use your imagination. Let's talk about things that aren't real, that we can't look at a photo of. Let's talk about like maybe drawing. Oh, let's draw a dragon. How about that? Let's draw a dragon.
Okay. Caitlin wants to know, what's your favorite thing to draw, Dan?
What's my favorite thing to draw? I love drawing robots.
Wow.
I love drawing robots. There was a period where I was drawing penguins, like for my early portfolio. Like I was drawing penguins all the time. Yeah, I really like drawing robots. I really like drawing penguins. I do keep a sketchbook here. Let me show you real quickly. If you can look at my tiny monitor. So for those of you who find sketchbooks to be very intimidating, I have a tiny sketchbook here. See, it's only 6 by 4 inches. I carry it with me when I travel, like when I'm on book tours, when I'm flying on a plane. And there's something less intimidating about having a little tiny 6 by 4 inch page. Because you can just fill that space. And it's like a zombie here that I was working on. This is a character from a graphic novel that I'm finishing up called The Aquanauts. This is like a castle. Oh, here's Garfield with an eye patch or something. Cat with an eye patch. See? I just drew that from my imagination. Here's a fun one. My son and I, we used to have this activity where he would draw something and I would draw my version of it. And he drew a robot with a TV for a head, and then he had like this weird crystal in his chest. So I did my own version of that. That was back when he was like 5 years old. Let's see, what else? I was drawing these little squids. This was for my graphic novel, just kind of experimenting. Here's a werewolf. Here's another werewolf. Things like that. Sketchbook, very handy to have. Just get your ideas. And again, like I said, it's okay. You can be totally messy. You can totally.
Yeah, no, I mean, there you saw it, everybody. Dan does a lot of drawing with pencils as well as digital drawing. So you got a sneak peek at a sketchbook.
So here,
I don't know if you want to draw Fluffy from Sidekicks, Lucas asks, and also
let's see, Fluffy.
Quick Humpty from Tiffany.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do that. So now would be a good time for you to break out like maybe that highlighter, that yellow crayon or whatever. Here's something I like to do. Like every morning when I work out, like when I draw, I like to warm up my hand by drawing little ovals. And if you just do that for 5 minutes, that warms your hand up a little bit. I'll have pages of just ovals that I've drawn. Just get your hands warmed up, and I'll do that. Another exercise I like to do is I like to draw 2 dots, and then I'll just draw lines connecting the 2 dots. Or I might take, and that's just warming your hands up, and then I might just draw ovals in there. It's like stretching before exercising. So yeah, so let's draw, oh my gosh, I haven't drawn Fluffy in years. Let's draw Fluffy here. So Fluffy, for those of you who aren't familiar, it was my graphic novel Sidekicks, which I drew back in 2007. Anyway, so Fluffy here is kind of like this upside down cup, all right? And then he has these 2 round eyes. And then he had a star. He had a star on his outfit because he stole the outfit from this costume that he had on a wall. And he has a triangle nose. And then his mouth is like this long letter D. And then his teeth, he has teeth like there. And that's just like this letter U that's cut in half. And then he had these 2 round ears, these 2 letter U's on each side. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember. He had pants. He had pants that were stars and stripes, right? And then on his chest it said USA, because he stole the costume from like a Captain America kind of character. And then he had this cape, so he had like these little pins. And then his legs and these 2 little sticks. And his arms were also little sticks. And then he had these gloves, which I'm going to break down into like little rectangles. And then he had a thumb.
So not so difficult to draw hands anymtle, right, Dan?
Not so, well,
Practice. You practiced, and now you don't practice it.
And a little cape, and he had a little cape behind himself there. And then these teardrop feet.
There you have it, everybody. Wow.
Okay, so let me give you an idea of what I meant by why we're using this orange crayon. So like if you talk about drawing through an object, for instance. So like let's talk about maybe let's draw my Arts Center alumni mug here, see?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now if I were to draw this mug, basic shape of this mug is a cylinder. So let's draw a cylinder. Okay. So now I'm going to use my little orange marker, and I'm going to basically draw a cylinder. Okay. That is a cup. That is a cup that you see. All right. Now I'm going to draw little handles here. I'm going to draw a little handle of the mug here. Now, if I'm drawing the bottom of this mug, like right here, see, this is the bottom of the mug, but you don't see this part, right? So this is why we work on an orange marker, because now I want you to take your black marker and draw on top of that. Okay. Now this is a lesson on contrast. So you can see the top of that mug. See, so I can safely draw. I can draw the top of that mug, see, because I can see the inside of it. I can draw the mug handle here. Okay. Now see, I'm not drawing this part because this part of the mug is covered by the handle. So I'm going to just follow through, and I'm going to basically just trace over what I worked on. And so you have a mug in 3D, but I basically broke down the shapes using the orange. But if I were to turn off, like if I were to just ignore the orange part, look, you've drawn yourself a mug in 3D. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's and a lot of artists do work that way. A lot of animators, for instance, and there's my little art center dot there. I'll give you an example here. So we have, okay, so here's a Prismacolor pencil. And if you look carefully on there, it says non-photo blue. And what happened was that back in the day, or even now, a lot of animators would take this non-photo blue. The reason why it's called non-photo blue is because when you would draw with it, and then you would take the drawing and you would do a Xerox of it, this blue pencil didn't show up when you Xeroxed it. So it would just disappear. And then you'd have this really nice, clean black line drawing over this blue pencil, but the blue would never show up. That's why these exist. So basically, I'm working here in Photoshop, and that's the same thing that I'm doing. It's just with Photoshop, you get to work in layers, so I can just basically turn that off. Let me give you an example of some things that I have worked on. Maybe we should talk a little bit about storytelling, about doing sequential art. Here's some great work by Chris Van Allsburg. This is a great book called The Mysteries of Harris Burdick. And he basically did these one picture illustrations, but the illustrations have what's known as a narrative. So the narrative, basically, it tells you a story, and really telling a story is by creating a picture that makes questions. It creates questions for you to ask, like, what's going on? That's really what you're asking yourself. So here's an illustration, for example, and it's really simple. It's a girl sleeping, and here's a book with ivy growing out of it. And as a result, you have a narrative going on. You're telling a story with just one picture. Here's another one of a man. Let's see, let me scale this a little bit. He's got this little weird lump under the ground. He's going to kill with a chair. I mean, it could be his cat for all we know. And he's ready to just kill his cat. I don't know, I think a little dramatic there, sir. And then we've got great one-panel comics. Here's a comic from The Far Side, which is a great one. And the joke is that it is the Midvale School for the Gifted, and he's trying to go into the school with a door that says pull, and he's pushing on the door. That's a joke in one comic. And now, if you want to tell stories, you want to be a sequential artist, then you just slowly start adding panels. I don't know why I'm promoting Garfield so much. I'm not a huge fan of Garfield anymore. But, here he is. It's a 3-page panel of Garfield. You have the line, and then you have the punch line. And that basically, that you can tell a comic in 3 panels, 1 panel. So back in the day when, before I was published, there's a friend of mine, Kazuki Buishi. He's known for doing the Amulet graphic novel series over at Scholastic. And back in the day when we were fresh out of art school, a bunch of us would hang out on his message board at boltcity.com, which is not there anymore. But if it was still there, you would have found an archive of like amazing artists who've gone on to do great things. It was Kazu, it was me, it was Jake Parker, who's known for doing Inktober. It was Raina Telgemeier, who's best known for doing her famous graphic novels like Smile and Sisters and so forth. But back in the day, it was just a bunch of us sharing our drawings and comics online, just saying, oh, someday people will hopefully like to read our things. And it's great to see how people have moved on to doing great things over the years.
Certainly.
But what we would do every beginning of the month, we would do this 24-hour comic period. And Kazu had this exercise where he would take one page of paper and he would make a comic just with that one page, which, basically is no different than something like Calvin and Hobbes. It's a one-page comic. He would give himself 24 hours to do it. Eventually, Kazu compiled all of those and made it into the graphic novel known as Copper, that was the name of his comic that he would do every month. But if I were to take out all the dialogue from this, like the sequential art is your ability to look at one panel here and then assess what's going on just by looking at the next panel. So even if we weren't looking at the text, you could tell that Calvin is holding onto the grass and he's lifting off the ground and he's getting torn away and then he's suddenly flying. So that's sequential storytelling just with pictures. You can look at Lego instructions, for instance, and that is sequential. You know how to make this little toy car out of Legos because it gives you a step-by-step instruction. Mm-hmm. Picture books are so easy. Picture books are so easy. You can do a picture book like Dude. Dude only has one word. Let me give you an example. And I want you to look at it. A lot of the storytelling comes from the illustrations, but there's only one word in this book, and that is dude. Dude! Dude!
So Californian.
Dude!
Dude!
Dude! And they're going out into the ocean. Dude! Dude! Splat. Dude! And then he sees a shark. Well, the pictures are telling a majority of the story here, right? Dude? Dude! So that's an example of dude.
I were to take... Brilliant, that is so brilliant. In fact, I have one student here of mine, actually. She's asked, this is Katie, when did you actually start making picture books? Because sometimes kids do start making them, when they're quite young, their own versions of picture books. So her question is more like, when did you start making picture books? Not necessarily when did you start being published. So did you start making them as a kid?
So it was interesting because I never really considered picture books as a profession until I took that class at art school. And the basic rules were 32 pages for a picture book, word count, you want to keep it under 2,000 words. And for me, like, that just seemed a little bit more palatable than doing an animated film where you're drawing 24 pictures just to make 1 second of film. Right. And so the assignment by the end of that class was that you would have a dummy book. And my first picture book that I had written that was unpublished was about this raccoon that was fascinated with shiny objects. And so I remember he looked up at the sun and he really wanted to catch the sun. And so he started building things so that he could fly up to the sun and grab the sun. And each time he just kept failing and failing until one day, like, he picks up a piece of glass, like a piece of broken glass, and then the sun was in the reflection, and that's how he got the sun. That was my first story. I look back at it, I cringe a little bit, like, oh gosh, Uh, but but here's the thing: you look back at your old work, and if it makes you cringe a little, that's how you know you're improving. That's a good sign.
So I just have a time for a couple more questions, although we have a lot of requests for you to draw all kinds of things. But
Okay.
everybody, Dan obviously has shown us how to make characters out of shapes. Maybe you can try to draw those characters that you're asking him to draw yourself by thinking of shapes. Baby Yoda was one, Spider-Man was another, Pikachu. These are all, shapes as well. So think about that. And then a couple of questions. John is asking about how long did it take for the final art after the fall for each of those pictures?
For each of the pictures and after the fall. So going back here, so like, so here's the thing. So I was going to talk about sequence. Like I could look at after the fall, and without any text, you can already like tell the story. Yes. Right?
And the importance of doing different viewpoints, Brian is asking, seeing the character from different points of view is also something you're really skilled at doing.
Yeah, so with that in mind, like I'll study a lot of cinematography in films. When we were in art school, a lot of us were studying, Hitchcock.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would sit there and we would storyboard the entire film. It was
good idea. Yeah.
We learned a lot of composition, theater lighting, and things like that. Those are handy tools. But illustrations like this, I work digitally, so things like this would move really quickly. So like this took me about a day. This took a day. Something like this might take a little bit longer. It might take a day and a half, 2 days. This might be a good opportunity for me to break down my illustrations. So let's take a look at this Griffith Observatory illustration that I have here. And as you can see, I have all these layers.
Dan, can you believe that we're almost at noon? So we've almost done 90 minutes. We can go on a bit longer. We've only got a few more minutes, everybody, but I'll let Dan keep showing at that. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. And a huge thank you to Dan. Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me this morning. I hope you stay safe. I hope everyone is
stay well.
Happy, and please share those drawings when you have a chance. So here, like I started with, let me see if I can find, I should label my things, shouldn't I? So here's a line drawing of the Griffith Observatory that I drew on a piece of paper, right? And so I work with a lot of watercolor textures. Like I'll just create textures on paper and then I'll scan them in. And then I'll just start throwing them down on a surface like so. Why does this already have stars on it? I have no idea. But like I'll basically just block in the colors using Photoshop, coloring in the ground. For some reason, it already showed the stars. So like, I was just putting in little stars like so, and then I'll tint it with layers. So I wanted to give it a little highlight there, add some shadows to the building, some highlights. And then here I have so here's the thing here. So I have a texture. This is a watercolor texture that I threw on top of it like so. And I wanted the texture to be baked into the digital art so it felt like watercolor. And so I'll take this and I'll overlay it. And so if you look carefully in it, you can see like the watercolor textures in the surface. Like that's how I do things. And then, just adding a couple details here and there, messing around with the tint of the colors. And then, typography is something that I think is very underrated. People tend to shy away from typography. I think it's very important.
Yeah, I love typography too.
So this illustration, this took me about 3-4 hours. And that's primarily how I work.
Awesome, Dan. Thank you so much for sharing so much with us this morning.
Thank you very much.
So exciting, and you're an amazing inspiration to everybody. You have so many fans out there. Thank you, everybody, for joining us from all over the world. Some folks had to go to bed, like in Singapore and Korea, it's like midnight, but they will be able to watch the recording. We've recorded this workshop. It'll be on our YouTube channel, SI Kids, Society of Illustrators. And Dan will be on our SI Kids Meet an Illustrator, so you can definitely get in touch with Dan through his website or on Instagram. So follow his social media, check out his website, see all the books that he's done. If you haven't got a bunch of them already, you can check out many of them. You can go to the library if you can just, want to check some of his chapter books out. So thank you, Dan.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, all friends. And I think there's a couple ex-girlfriends on there. But
well, everyone's joining you from all over, from all your adventures, from all over the world. And hopefully we'll all get back to adventuring further afield.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Dan. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.